Hello, welcome to the Wildline Podcast. I'm your host, Dan. This is a podcast about movies and how much money they make at the box office. Today's episode is going to be a box office review for the weekend of March 10th through the 12th. A very interesting weekend of the box office. Last weekend was very exciting with Logan opening so well in the 80s. And this weekend was a little bit of a question mark. Kong Skull Island is a classic, almost like textbook case of a blockbuster popcorn movie. And now that apparently March is the beginning of the summer movie season or something, March now feels like May for some reason. It feels like May did probably like 20, maybe 15, 20 years ago. But Kong Skull Island's a huge movie to open in March. So was Logan. Hell, so was the Lego Batman movie. And so people coming into this weekend were projecting that Kong would probably do in the high 40s, low 50s. I know Warner Brothers was saying in the 40s, but the movie studios always tend to undercut their own movies a bit, so that when it overperforms, they usually add on to like 5 to 10 million to an industry projection just because they want to look like it's overperforming. But according to early estimates today, Kong is going to come in at number one by a mile here, by a country mile, as they say, with about $61 million. And as of yesterday, it was looking more like 50s based on the Friday numbers and the stuff that was coming in on Saturday. But once they tabulated Saturday night into Sunday morning now, it's looking like a $61 million opener. Which on the face of it is a big win for Kong Skull Island. It opened on 3,800 screens, almost 3,850 essentially. Its per theater average was $15,900. Its budget, this is where it gets kind of interesting because a lot of the other projections were saying 40s, maybe 50s, if it was lucky, mid 50s. This has outperformed those projections, but the projections need to be taken with a grain of salt, and they need to be taken in terms of the context of the budget, right? So the production budget on this was $185. Print and advertising budget for a movie like this worldwide is gonna be well over $100 million. People always forget that about just the movie business in general. Is that what you get to the box office is incredibly important, and it sort of sets the pattern for how the movie is going to do on DVD, streaming, on digital, and all that good stuff, and TV rights afterwards. If it does super well in the box office, it will do a ton more on the back end. So it is very important, but there's a lot of costs associated with releasing a movie in the theaters. One of them being the print and advertising budgets. When everybody says P&A, that's what they mean, and that can be huge. And I believe Deadline said it was well over 100 million for Kong Skull Island, so that's 100 million on top of the 185 that's listed for the production budget. So you're already talking at least $300 million to put this movie out. It's probably more like, based on Deadline's data from the last couple of years, you're probably looking at at least $550 million to release this film worldwide. So it has to make a ton of money. So that's why the fact that it did $61 million this weekend, a lot of the box office nerds and probably the industry people are surprised by that. And I think we're all pretty excited about it doing that well, especially when you look at the Saturday versus Friday numbers. The holds, it actually, I think, increased about $4 million from Friday. Anyway, it was an increase, didn't stay flat. That means it's playing really well with weekend moviegoers. Maybe people who are a little bit older who have jobs on Fridays or Thursdays and don't want to go into a midnight movie preview on a Thursday night, or too tired after a Friday workday to go to a movie. They go on Saturday and Sunday, and it seems like Kong Skull Island is playing pretty well with that group of people. I think overall it's a decent performance by Kong Skull Island. I tend to get caught up in the hype of following in the horse race, of following the numbers on on a daily basis, just to see how it moves. And everybody's always projecting what's it going to do on Thursday, what's it going to do on Friday, and that's a lot of fun as somebody who's really into this data and this analysis and the business. But it can be a little bit of tunnel vision if you don't take a step back and look at the big picture here. And that Kong Skull Island, I don't know if it's going to break even. If it, let's say the $61 million estimate today is looking right on the money for the actual tomorrow. You're thinking, Kong has a cinema score, came back as a B+, which is decent. It means people enjoyed it. They didn't love it, but they didn't hate it. So it's right smack dab in the middle. 78% on Rotten Tomatoes. Its audience score is a little bit lower than that at 76%. And that sort of, I'm like, okay, B+ cinema score, 76% Rotten Tomatoes audience score. That lines up to me as like a movie where people definitely enjoyed it and liked it, but they were not blown away by it by any stretch of imagination. So the context of that is, what are the legs going to be on the $61 million? I'm thinking, oh man, I don't know. Let's say at 3x, it's going to do 183. I think that's probably the top for this. It's not going to break that. 61 times maybe like a 2.5x multiplier, you're talking 150. And keep in mind that Logan's still in the theaters, so that's taking a lot of the male audience away from some of this. And then the Juggernaut is opening next weekend, Beauty and the Beast. So Kong will probably end up between 150 and 180. My guess is probably in the 160, 165-ish range is where it will end up. Unless, there is a possibility here that this is just going to pop off this opening weekend and people sort of like it, but they're not blown away by it. So it could kind of have lower legs, like maybe in the 2.2 range, like a 134. I feel like it's going to be in the 165 range at the end of the day. Now, is that going to break even for Warner Brothers? My guess is it's going to be right near the break-even point. This is not going to be a big profitable film. I also don't think it's going to be a huge flop loss for Warner Brothers. It's kind of going to be a push for the studio, which is, I think, a little bit unfortunate, just because I thought the marketing on Kong Skull Island was so well done. The first trailer, I think, was just awesome. It was one of those trailers like you're watching, I was like, wait, what is this about? This looks really cool, and I have no idea what it is. And then of course Kong shows up, you're like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. But it was the style and the vibe of that trailer. And you're basically mixing Vietnam War movie with King Kong, and for some reason this really works, at least from a marketing perspective. But I think at the end of the day, Kong Skull Island did very well this weekend. Considering where it was supposed to go as of 3 days ago. They were thinking, oh, maybe 50 million, which would have been a flop for Warner Brothers. And if it did 40s, you're talking a pretty massive flop that would hurt Warner Brothers, and they'd lose quite a lot of money on that, actually. But that will not be the case, as Kong Skull Island came in at number 1 this weekend with $61 million. Coming at number 2 this weekend was last week's winner, Logan, $37.8 million, a hefty 57% drop. Still on over 4,000 screens, a very good second weekend, $9,300 per theater average. It's sitting at 152 total takes so far on a budget of only 97. Logan's going to be quite the profitable film, as opposed to Kong Island, where it's kind of like, we don't know if it's actually going to make a profit or not. Logan's definitely going to make a profit. One thing to note here is that drop, right? So it has an okay, per theater average, and that's good. What you don't want to see, though, is a drop well over 50%. Drops are all over the place. And then when I say drop, I mean the drop from opening weekend to second weekend of the film. One thing to note is that certain types of genres have bigger drops in general. Horror is notorious for having large drops from its first weekend to its second weekend. Sequels do, and any movie that is, the term is front loaded, right? So a lot of people want to go see it opening weekend, and that audience quickly falls off second, third, fourth weekend. I don't know why horror movies are like that. There needs to be a paper written on that. I've been following the box office for 20 years, and that's just always been the case with horror movies. For some people, for some reason, and it's kind of across even the subgenres of horror and the different series within horror. It's just that people want to go see them opening weekend and get scared, and then for whatever reason that audience just disappears. But Logan's drop of 57% is a lot bigger than what you want now, especially for a huge movie like this. And a lot of people have been noting that the X-Men series and the Wolverine films just tend to have large drops, and I can't figure out why that is, to be honest with you. I mean, they're comic book movies. Like, the quality on Logan is not low. I mean, people really liked the film. It's got a 92% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. On Metacritic, it's got a 77. That's great for like a comic book movie like this. I think the audiences really liked it. It got A- on Cinema Score. So the quality is there. So it doesn't seem to be a quality issue that's causing the hefty big second weekend drop here. Maybe it's just like the type of film, or maybe Kong really hurt it. It's a rated R Wolverine film, which played very, very well with male audiences. Maybe Kong took a big piece out of that. I don't know. It is very peculiar, though. I can't remember what the original Wolverine drop was. I know it was. I gotta look it up now just because I'm curious. The Wolverine. What did that open at here? The Wolverine had a 60% drop. That was back in 2013. God, I don't remember that movie at all, to be honest with you. I do remember X-Men Origins Wolverine, which came out in 2009, and that had a 69% drop from first weekend to second weekend. So Logan's doing better than those. So there's just like a weird thing with the Wolverine movies and the X-Men movies in general, which blows my mind, because if you look at MCU or DC films, or just comic book movies in general, I don't know. You always assume that they're very front loaded, but for some reason this slice of that genre is even more so, and I can't really figure out why. That's another paper somebody needs to write. But Logan coming in at $38 million essentially for the weekend. I don't know where it's going to end up. It's just so hard to figure out now with this drop. Originally you're thinking, okay, it did $88 million. Oh man, I thought it did less than that. It did 88 last weekend. On a normal, decent film with good reviews like this, you're thinking, all right, it's going to do 260 domestically. Now you gotta throw that out the window, because that's a 3x multiplier. Now you're looking at more like a low 2 multiplier, maybe let's say 2.3x off that $88 million. You're looking at just over $200 million. I don't know where this is gonna go. Just because remember Batman vs Superman had a sub 2 multiplier. Oh, just makes you nauseous thinking about it. That movie's terrible, by the way. It's on pay cable constantly, and it's just I think it's on HBO. It is such a bad movie. God, was it bad. There's no way they should let him direct a big movie again. But I do believe he's still slated for whatever Justice League. I don't even know when that's coming out. Any event, Logan, compared to last weekend, it's a little bit gloomier, a little murkier picture for that film. They tried something different. They tried to go the hard R rating, which sort of Deadpool has now pioneered as a part of the sub comic book superhero genre, that you can do a hard R and make tons of money. Logan's giving me a little bit of mixed messages. I'm not saying Logan's going to do bad overall. It's going to be a very profitable film for Fox. But it does suggest some elasticity, as they say in economics here. It's why is Logan not pulling the same numbers or even on the same trajectory as Deadpool? Deadpool was such an outlier. 130 something million dollars opening weekend. I don't even know what it ended up as, but it was just explosive and game changing, really, in the movie industry. Really game changing. It was definitely a pet project for Ryan Reynolds and the director, Tim Miller, I believe. And it just changed the game because Fox kind of believed in it, but sometimes clearly didn't. It did $363 million domestically. It's like that. I would have bet my life. I would have said, you're going to live or die. Deadpool's going to do under $200 million. I would have said, yeah, I bet you he's going to do under $200 million. There's no way. I clearly read that whole world wrong. But the reason I read it wrong is because Deadpool was such an outlier and such a game changer that it really did change the rules. Like an opening like that of $132 million in February, mind-boggling, really. And so you kind of wonder, and I kind of want to look up the multiplier for Deadpool now. You kind of wonder how Logan's going to fit into this picture now, because it's not playing like Deadpool at all. Now, if Logan did the same multiplier as Deadpool, you're looking at 242. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to come in close. I think it's going to maybe just get over $200 million, if that. So something's a lot different here. I don't know what it is. Logan was basically made to mimic, to some degree, the Deadpool phenomenon. Super hard R. Let's just let the director do what they want to do and kind of make it a little edgier and darker than your normal MCU type movie. And it, the gamble paid off well because it's doing much better than the other Wolverine movies. But there is a sort of another layer of analysis here as to why it's underperforming Deadpool's run. Not just aggregate in terms of how much money it's making, but sort of, I feel like the multiplier is going to be significantly worse for Logan. So we'll see how that plays out the next week. I'm super fascinated how it's going to do this third weekend with Kong and Beauty and the Beast. You're thinking maybe a 50% drop would be good, but I don't know. We'll see. It could go even higher than that. In any event, Logan, with a decent performance, with $38 million this weekend, a big 57% drop. Coming number 3 this weekend was Get Out, $21 million. This is my favorite movie to talk about for some reason. I'm a big horror movie fan. I haven't seen this one yet, but this could be a groundbreaking film in terms of not only just the horror genre, but box office in general. And here's why. So it did $21 million this weekend. If Get Out had done $21 million its opening weekend, it would have been a huge, huge win. We're now sitting at its third weekend and it's hitting $21 million. It is adding screens on its third weekend. It added 205 screens. What that's telling me is that certain areas and certain cities are seeing such a huge demand for this film that they have to add more theaters to it. Its per theater average this weekend was about $6,700. Its total take so far is $111 million. This is another one that kind of reminds me of Deadpool and how surprising it is. When this trailer dropped I guess it was last year, maybe even last October, it felt like I knew right away it was going to pop off and be interesting. It wasn't just going to be this tiny film that does a couple $1 million and it disappears. I thought it was going to do decent. I had no idea it was going to do this well. And, we were talking about drops for horror films earlier. A 25% drop on your third weekend is unheard of. And, its second weekend drop, I have to look it up now because I forgot, was 15%. That might be one of the lowest drops for a horror film wide release ever. It could be number one. I'd have to look more into it. But it's incredible. And you kind of have to figure out why is this happening? What was it about the film? I talked about this last week. It's a race relations film that plays off of fear of racism, fear of being outcast, fear of being alienated, and it plays it up as sort of an absurdist horror angle. And that was the whole point. It was very deliberate, and it's connected with audiences so well. The reason, so if you put that aside, huge horror sort of movie might be one of the biggest horror movies ever in terms of box office. Think about that for a second. Ever, something like you think about Scream. Right, like you figure it. Oh, that's got to be one of the biggest movies ever. Horror movies usually cap out and they fall off the earth about the $100 million mark, right? Like once they hit that $100 million mark, they're just like done, right? But a movie like Get Out, the fact that it's at $111 million in its third weekend suggests something else. It suggests that something has changed within the horror genre. And we could see this coming for a while now, and it's no coincidence that this film was produced by Blumhouse, right? Like they have been the pioneers. Is it Blumhouse or Blumhouse? I don't even know. Blum. It's got to be Blumhouse because his last name's Blum. Whatever. I'm gonna call it Blumhouse. I like Blumhouse more. Anyways, Blumhouse has been doing so well. With these low budget horror films, they've really, pioneered it in recent times. Like there's certainly, it harkens back to like New Line and stuff in the 80s and 90s, or Dimension back in the 90s, is these, smaller studios that put up, a few $1 million for a small horror film and they make like $50-60 million. So Blumhouse is doing that and has been doing it for the last few years. And they've had huge wins. The Insidious series, the Conjuring movies have all done very well. But this is different. I think it's different for a few reasons. I mean, the main thing that you're looking at here is like the micro budget, obviously. $4.5 million production budget. That's tiny compared to most of the stuff coming out. I mean, if you look at even stuff this weekend, Kong cost $185 million. Logan, $97 million. Even something like Hidden Figures, which is kind of it's doing incredibly well, but was a smaller film by a major studio, $25 million. So Blumhouse and Universal were able to put this out for only $4.5 million production. Obviously, the marketing is going to be pretty big, but this is mostly, it felt like a social media push on this one. So, if you're looking at advertising budget here, it's going to be under, $50 million. It's going to be way underneath that, I think. So this is going to be a huge moneymaker. And why I'm interested in it is not just the fact that it's micro budget, because we've been noticing this weird shift in the movie industry over the last 10 years, basically last decade. Like the music industry and the TV industry, it is going through some pretty monumental changes, just because of streaming and the internet, and the distribution model that was in place is going to get basically upended sooner rather than later. And the movie industry is kind of the last one of the major entertainment industries to really feel the effects and starting to have to change the way they do business. And, if you look at micro budget films, Split is another example, another horror film, that's sitting at $135 million so far. That's going to get beat out by Get Out, which was produced for even half of that. And so, you have the micro budget movement. I feel like it's coming back now. And Blumhouse is definitely a reason why they've been able to produce these films for so cheap that look great. They really look like high quality major studio films. They're just, for whatever reason, they found a more efficient way of doing business. And you couple that with the fact that they're getting the good writers and the good directors and the good actors, and it's working really well. And so, you got your micro budget film stuff going on, but, even compared to other micro budget movies, let's say outside of Split, look at what won Best Picture this year. Moonlight was an amazing film. It probably was shot for about $4.5 million. I can't imagine it was much more than that. Beautiful film. But its total take at the box office is just now at $27 million. Get Out beat that in its opening weekend. Hell, Get Out beat that almost probably by the fucking second day it was out. So one thing you gotta realize here is that we're talking about different tiers here. Like, there's definitely micro budget films that can do well, but when you're breaking the $100 million mark on your third weekend and you shot the film for under $10 million, that is a paradigm shift. And I don't know if it's about micro budget films or if it's about specifically horror in general, just because horror has been going through a renaissance, which I trace back to It Follows a couple years ago. When that movie came out, as a horror movie buff, I'm not like one of those horror movie fans who watches every single foreign horror movie ever made and like can recite the history off the top of my head. But I do know the popular culture reaction to horror films and in terms of making money. And It Follows may have not made $1 billion, but there was something there that felt so different and so refreshing in the horror movie genre. And then it was followed up this year by The Witch, which was, the reaction to The Witch was hilarious because you had a lot of people going in there thinking, oh, it's going to be like a jump scare horror movie, just like a period piece. Nope, not at all. This was a naturalistic horror movie that reminded me a lot of some of the better stuff that happened in the 70s, which I consider to be like the golden age of horror. Better than even a lot of the big movies in the 80s. That stuff in the 70s was unnerving. It was so, just a sense of dread would come over you when you wanted, like primal dread. It wasn't like jump scares. It wasn't like a slasher. It was like the darkness of humanity put on the screen. And I'm thinking of like Last House on the Left, The Hills Have Eyes, both Wes Craven movies, I Spit on Your Grave, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like those movies built the foundation of horror in American cinema. And I'm getting the feeling like there's a renaissance going on here. And Split, even though I didn't like it at all, fits into that. It's more sort of a thriller. And Get Out seems to be right on the money here. And it's obviously going to end up well over 150. People are suggesting like 200's a possibility with these low drops. But I think at the end of the day, it is such a huge win for Blumhouse and Universal, and such a big change for the genre of horror films. Because Get Out is like almost a stereotypical socially conscious horror film that we just did not see that much of post-Scream in 1996. Scream ushered in the postmodern movement in horror film where everything was ironic, everything was pastiche or a parody of something. Half the times in those sort of slasher horror movies, you'd laugh just as much as you'd be scared. It really took the genre in a specific direction that is now it's just coming out of. And a lot of that is from the Blumhouse people, Jason Blum specifically, of taking back the genre away from the sort of post-Scream era and making it scarier, making it more vivid and rich storytelling. And I think Get Out is like maybe the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of really changing that genre for good. And we might be getting into a period now where the new norm is that we're going to get these awesome low budget horror films that are great films in general and not just cash grabs. That's my hope, and that's what I'm seeing happening. Get Out is a great film, very highly rated. Audiences clearly love it, and it was shot for next to nothing. It's going to make a huge profit. So I think that industry will notice that and start investing more in smaller films like this that press like really kind of hot button topics like race. I will see where it goes. Maybe it's a one-off. Maybe this is just, Get Out just hit a grand slam and we're going to go back to like the slasher movies or anything like that. I don't think so, though. I think Get Out is a real bellwether of where the horror genre is going to go over the next 5 to 10 years maybe. In any event, that's when I'm rant on Get Out. I could talk about the movie forever. I haven't even seen it yet, but I want to see it so bad. But it's such a fascinating business case, especially from the horror movies perspective. But it came in number 3 this weekend, $21 million, 25% drop, amazing. Number 4 this weekend was The Shack, $10 million, a pretty good 38% drop. That's typical for a Christian film like this. Its per theater average is sitting about $3,500. $32 million gross so far. I think they're going to be okay with that. I think they probably want a little bit more by now, but I'm sure they're happy with making their little slice of pie on that. Coming number 5 was the Lego Batman movie, $7.8 million, 33% drop. That's great. Decent for a family film. Talked about this for a while. It's dropped 353 screens this weekend. Its per theater average is looking a little sickly at $2,400. It is the 5th weekend, but keep in mind this is a children's film. They tend to have the best legs of any genre. It's not playing like they wanted it to. It's sitting at $160 million so far. That's just not. It's not what they wanted. They definitely wanted more than this. It's going to be profitable. It's not a bad product at the end of the day. They are going to make cash on it. But it really calls into question that Lego movie universe that I think they wanted to build out pretty rapidly. And I believe there's another Lego movie coming out this year. Maybe it's a ninja one. People were talking about it on the old nerd box office boards. Yeah, it's coming out in September, and then a couple years from now, Lego Movie 2 is coming out. So they haven't front loaded this too much, this whole Lego movie universe. But you gotta wonder how this ninja movie is gonna do in September. You have 2 one-off Lego movies and Lego Batman not performing that well. Oof. I don't even know what that's gonna do. It's also in that dreaded September month, which is just like the doldrums of that part of the year. I feel like September and January are just like the worst. Everybody's going back to school in September, and autumn is just everything's changing, and I don't know, it's just a really bad month for the box office. I think that ninja movie is going to do pretty poorly, actually. Well, in any event, so Lego Man was number 5, or Lego Batman, I should say. Before I Fall, the movie, I didn't know what it was last weekend when it came out, but then I remembered I saw the trailer 600 times. 3.1 million, good 33% drop. It was a really good drops this weekend besides Logan. Only $1,300 per theater. This will disappear quite rapidly. It's still on 2,300 screens. It won't be next weekend, I'll tell you that much, once Beauty and the Beast comes out. Open Road Films, I think they mishandled this film. I mean, it looked like, as much as I kind of pissed all over the I shouldn't use that term anymore with Trump in office, as much as I sort of criticized the trailer and whatever, this could have been a big movie. I feel like, I think it was based on a young adult novel. It had all the elements, of opening at, at least 10 million, maybe in the mid-teens. I don't know why it didn't. It feels like poor marketing by Open Road Films, once again, who is just known for just being awful at doing theatrical releases. They're just the worst. Number 7 this weekend was Hidden Figures, $2.8 million. Another weekend of a fantastic drop, only 27%. It is starting to lose screens, 161 screens this weekend. It lost. Its per theater average is now under 2,000, and it will quickly start dropping off after this. But hell, how can you not be happy with a $25 million production budget making $163 million? It could beat out, it would be really interesting if Hidden Figures beats out Kong Skull Island at the end of the day. It's possible. It is actually quite possible. But we'll see what happens. Hidden Figures, one of the bigger stories of this winter, now going on to spring. Number 8 this weekend was John Wick Chapter 2, $2.7 million, a decent 44% drop. Starting to lose a lot of theaters. Lost almost 500 theaters this weekend. Per theater average is not anemic. I'm kind of come up with different words for bad theater averages. Anemic, 1,300. Sitting at $87 million. Won't break the $100 million mark on this one, I don't think. I don't know. I have mixed feelings about the John Wick sequel. From a quality perspective, I thought it had sequelitis. Too much of the stuff. It's just too much of too many different things. The story just sucked. It was boring. But the action was amazing, and Keanu was awesome as well. It just felt really uninspired, parts of it at least. They're definitely going to do a third one, but I was hoping this one would go way past $100 million, and it's not going to happen. But it's good enough performance for Lionsgate that they'll definitely put out a third one, since the sequel was basically a setup for a third movie. Coming number 9 is good old La La Land with $1.7 million, almost $1.8 million for the weekend. 41% drop. Added about 170 theaters this weekend. I guess that's just because more Oscar hype stuff. I don't even know at this point. It's been out for 14 freaking weeks. Unbelievable. Its per theater average is almost dropping under the $1,000 mark. So I don't know. I feel like Beauty and the Beast is just going to like wipe out a lot of these smaller films and just get them out of the theaters. I don't even know when La La Land is coming out on VOD. It should be decently soon, I would think. I would hope if they were smart. If they were smart, like they'd be putting it out like immediately. Because like, I don't even know. I have to look at the economics of that. It's like $6 for my VOD. And I don't mind paying $6 at all for a lot of the movies I see. I paid $6 last night to see Manchester by the Sea finally got around to seeing that. Talk about depressing. I knew that it was a sad film, and I knew that Casey Affleck is just really good at playing that character. I had no idea that there was this whole subplot related to that. I just thought he was kind of like an alcoholic sad dude. No. There's a lot more to it. Great film. Really, really good. But only $6 to see it. It came out in October or whenever. I was happy to pay that. With La La Land, man, they pushed that out. They should do more tiered pricing. Like, if they pushed out La La Land for $10, like right now, I guarantee you they would make more than $1.7 million. And I think they probably get a bigger cut of VOD anyways. Just a random thought there. Number 10 was 50 Shades Darker. I can't believe this movie. I'm still talking about this movie. $1.6 million, 54% drop, lost 700 theaters, just about $1,100 per theater average. In its fifth weekend, sitting at 112 million so far. I just want that movie to go away. And that's pretty much it. I did a lot of rants, so I won't go on too much longer here. I will say anything outside of the top 10 that's interesting. Fist Fights, awful. $30 million total so far. Split still sticking around there. Huge horror film, but Get Out's going to be bigger, which no one would have predicted. No one would have predicted. I don't think that Split was going to do well over 100. But the fact that Get Out is beating it is just mind-boggling to me. And that's mostly it. It's kind of quiet outside the top 10 this time of year. The Great Wall is a huge epic flop for Universal. Moonlight is still, despite the fact that Moonlight is on VOD, it just came out like this last week. It still made $1 million at the box office, sitting at $1,000 per theater. But again, like Moonlight only made $27 million total. Like it's just like a different world for those types of films. The only other one that Table 19 I talked about last weekend, and I don't know what they did with that movie. Apparently the quality was just so bad that they just smothered it essentially. Sitting at $3 million on its second weekend, I just don't see how this doesn't open to 12 or 11 or $14 million if you do a real marketing campaign behind it. It's got Anna Kendrick in the lead. Like, come on, Stephen Merchant, Greg Robinson. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Anything else to talk about here? Moana, it's at 250 essentially. It's going to end up at. Sing beat it at 268, sitting at the 22nd spot on the box office. Rogue One is still out in theaters on 166 theaters, $530 million on that one. That's mostly it. Although my favorite though is The Passengers. Sony just like keeps it in theaters, just begging, hoping that it breaks the $100 million marker. It won't. There's no way it will. It's only sitting at $105,000 for this weekend. So it will not break that record. That's all I got for the top 10 this weekend. Take a big step back. What's the big story? Kong did well. It probably won't do well enough so that it'll be a big profitable film for Warner Brothers, but I think it did enough so that it's not going to be a big loss. Logan with a huge drop, and I think the story of this new year, or at least this early part of spring, late winter, is Get Out, changing the game for micro budget films, changing the game and a paradigm shift for horror movies, and I think that's really cool. So next weekend, what we got coming out is Beauty and the Beast. That'll be a huge release. People are talking out their ass on this movie, and maybe I'm gonna get fucking like smashed in the face, or like I did with Deadpool, just talking like an idiot or something in terms of what it's going to do opening weekend. People are talking like 150 for Beauty and the Beast opening weekend, if not higher. And apparently pre-sales are off the charts, blah, blah, blah. I don't see it. I'm sorry. I just don't see a $150 million opening for a movie like Beauty and the Beast. It's not a 4-quadrant film, number one. Who's going to see Beauty and the Beast? You're going to have, obviously, under 25, mostly women, though. So you got children, you got teenagers, and then I think over 25 women too. I see a 2-quadrant film. I don't see men going to see this movie. Like, of course, their girlfriends are dragging them to it, whatever. I'm thinking like, I don't know. I don't have a number to throw out there right now, but I don't see the 150 marker making any sense to me at all. Also, the Belko experiment's coming out. I think that's going to do pretty decent. It looks like a cool, the trailer's pretty cool. Haven't seen a lot of recent marketing for it, so I don't know what it's going to do, but it might pop off a bit. Only on 1,200 screens though. What a weird opening number, 1,200 screens. And then after that, like we are in. I feel like we're already in the summer movie season, because we got Beauty and the Beast. We have these huge blockbuster films coming out, and then the weekend after that, we got Chips coming out, which looks terrible. Life, huge movie. Power Rangers, all in the same weekend, and then you got Boss Baby, Ghost in the Shell, Step Sisters. I don't know what Step Sisters is, but Ghost in the Shell and Boss Baby are huge. And then you got the Smurfs movie coming out. What an interesting month so far. Like, March is just becoming, someone was saying online, March is like the new May. It is like the new May, and it's exciting stuff. So I'll be back next week to talk about how Beauty and the Beast does and how well Kong can hold on. Thanks for listening, guys. This has been the Wildline Podcast.